Welcome to Lit with Ernest, where we dive into the world of books and explore the stories that shape us. Today, we're talking about Martin Luther's 95 Theses, a work that sparked a revolution in thought and changed the course of history. In the early 16th century, the Catholic Church was facing criticism for its practices, including the sale of indulgences. These were essentially get-out-of-purgatory free cards that people could buy to reduce their time in purgatory or secure a spot in heaven. Martin Luther, a German theologian and monk, saw this as a corruption of the Church's teachings and decided to speak out. On October 31, 1517, Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany, Bargring. This act was a call to debate, a challenge to the Church to reform its practices and return to its core values. The 95 Theses were a series of statements that questioned the authority of the Church and the sale of indulgences. They were written in Latin, but soon translated into German, making them accessible to a wider audience. The literary background of the 95 Theses is rooted in the tradition of invective, a type of writing that uses strong language and rhetorical devices to attack an opponent or criticize a particular practice. Luther's use of invective was masterful, as he employed irony, sarcasm, and ridicule to make his points. The 95 Theses also drew on the ideas of earlier reformers, such as John Wycliffe and Jan Hus, who had challenged the authority of the Church. One of the key themes in the 95 Theses is the idea of individual conscience and personal faith. Luther argued that individuals should be able to interpret Scripture for themselves rather than relying on the Church's interpretation. This idea was revolutionary at the time and helped to shape the course of the Protestant Reformation. The 95 Theses also employed a range of literary devices, including metaphor, allegory, and allusion. For example, Luther used the metaphor of the Church as a ship to describe its corruption and decay. He also employed allegory to illustrate the idea that true faith comes from within, rather than from external sources. The cultural impact of the 95 Theses was enormous. They sparked a wave of protests and reforms across Europe, leading to the establishment of new Christian denominations and the eventual split between Protestantism and Catholicism. The 95 Theses also influenced the development of art, literature, and music as people began to explore new themes and ideas. For example, the 95 Theses have been cited as an influence by writers such as John Milton and John Bunyan, who used their own writing to challenge established authority and speak truth to power. They have also been referenced in music and art, from the hymns of the Reformation era to the paintings of Lucas Cranach. Its themes of courage, conviction, and resistance against oppression are just as relevant now as they were 500 years ago. The 95 Theses remind us of the power of individual conscience and personal faith, and the importance of challenging established authority when it becomes corrupt or unjust. Like this episode if it hit true. Share it if you respect honest talk about books. Subscribe because we'll do this again. This is Ernest, signing off.